trying to get good quality bait and that kind of stuff. One of the things I did is I brought my eggs from a couple of hens I caught today on the coast. Just kind of give you a quick demonstration of kind of how I cure them, what I do. Had to get Matt to bring me a pair of scissors because I left those at home like so much of the other stuff I did. But I figured if I came in and did my eggs now, just let me do a little bit of my work while I'm doing this. So it helps me do a little bit of stuff. So basically what I do is one of the main reasons why I think curing eggs during spring Chinook season is super important is because a lot of the fish you catch have real small immature skeins, and as the seasons go on they get a little bit bigger and a little bit bigger. But for me, that is the best bait I use for winter steelhead the following season. So I'll spend my entire spring Chinook season catching all the bait that I use during the winter steelhead season, those really tight skeins. As they get a little bit more mature, once the spring Chinook skeins start spreading out and looking about the size of a steelhead skein, that's when I'll really try to gear in towards putting a lot of those up, doing that stuff. But a lot of times I like the real small tight skeins as well. A lot of guys will just clean their fish and toss them out. But you know, if I can get a few fish a day and get a couple hens every day and cure them up and do that kind of stuff, it doesn't take long to have a pretty big mass of them. And those really small tight skeins are great because they'll cast repetitively, you know, and you can just be in there and just cast them and cast them and cast them. You don't have to worry about your bait coming up. They hold well, they have good scent, all that kind of stuff. What I'm going to do right now is I'm going to cure the steelhead skeins I got from today. I'm going to cure them up kind of real quick, and I'm going to do them in my salmon cure. The reason why I'm going to do that is because I'll probably start this off when I start spring Chinook fishing. I'll probably start off with these eggs. They're getting to be pretty big size. I've got tons of steelhead bait put away, so I don't really need a whole lot of steelhead bait for the rest of things. So obviously I have my own line of cure. You know, you can use any kind of cure you want. The thing that I like about my cure is it's pretty simple. I like the way it fishes, all that kind of stuff. But what I'll do is I'm going to do just a container method. I'm just going to sprinkle a little bit on top in the bottom of the container. You can do a couple different techniques. One is you can kind of just butterfly the skein open. See if Matt's scissors will cut it all here. And so what I'll try to do is just kind of roll it through my hand and let it slide down. As I do, I'm just laying the skein open, and you can see how the skein just opens up. If I do this and I don't feel like it quite opened up all the way, a lot of times I'll just peel it apart a little bit with my fingers. Really kind of just butterfly that skein open. The reason why I do that is because I want that egg cure to really get down into the membrane a little bit. So what I'll do is I'll just lay that in the bottom of the container, kind of just lay it on the cure that I already put in there. I'm just going to sprinkle a little bit of cure back on there. And so what I'm trying to do is just cover them lightly, just a little bit of cure on the bottom there. Just makes it real simple. Again, I'll do the next skein the exact same way. I'm just going to butterfly it open, and this one's already fairly open. And because of that, it doesn't take a lot. I'm just going to kind of cut right through it quick. Just kind of peel it open, make sure it's butterflied well. And then what I can do with that is, once I get those cured, I'll cut those into bait-sized chunks. And so a lot of times I'll use bigger baits when the water's more off color, and I'll use smaller baits and that kind of stuff when the water's clearer, that kind of thing. So one of the other things I'll do is a lot of times is rather than open the skein at all, I'll just take the eggs and I'll cut them into like bait-sized chunks, a chunk that I think I would use for spring Chinook. And so I'll just take it and cut a big chunk. And a lot of times what I'll use for fish isn't what somebody else will use for fish. So I'll just go through and I'm just going to cut the skein, and I'm trying to leave as much of the membrane there as possible. Since this skein is fairly big, it's a steelhead skein that you know, was out of probably 10-pound fish today, but it's starting to open up a little bit. So to keep that thing really having hard consistency so where the eggs aren't flipping and falling off there, I'm just cutting it in a little bait-sized chunk. I'm kind of letting the skein fall open, and in the between there you see the little folds. So what I'm going to do is I'm just kind of cutting right along the edge of the fold, and I'm just going to cut them in there, and I'm just going to make a layer. And so as I make a layer, I'm going to layer it right over the top of all the eggs, just like I do. Just like I did when I butterflied them, I'm going to do the exact same technique and just kind of layer them in there. And this is just a way, a lot of times if I'm fishing fall Chinook and I've got a hen and I know I'm going to fish it again in the next couple days, I have a pretty good idea of what size skeins I'm going to use, that kind of stuff, and I'll just go through and cut them up and do that kind of stuff. And I'm just going to quickly butterfly this one again so I can kind of move on to something else. Again, like I said, I'm just cutting right through the middle of it when I butterfly it, just trying to kind of lay it open, get the skein open, that kind of thing. And the nice thing about my cure is it's not real technical. You don't have to be right on. What I tell people all the time is, if you're not sure about how much cure to use, you can actually put too much cure on it and just put a whole bunch of extra cure on there. And as you do that, when you pick it up, a lot of it will fall off. So everything that falls off is kind of what what sticks is what you want to use. And so that's kind of a good example of how much cure to put on there and that kind of stuff. And if you're not sure, you can just put a little bit extra on and kind of shake it around.
Won't burn it.
What's that?
Won't burn the eggs.
Yeah, you don't burn the eggs. And so what I do is I've did it so many times, I get a pretty good idea of exactly how much to use. But if you don't know, you can just put a little bit extra on. When you lift them up, they should just have a nice kind of powder coating all over them, just a nice little bit from one side to the other. So what I'm going to do is just put a little bit more on the top, just because I kind of move the middle of the ground just a little bit. What I do is after I cure them like this, I just put the lid on, and then you want to really shake that up good. And so don't be afraid to just, you're not going to damage the egg, you're not going to bruise it, you're not going to do anything, but that'll keep any lumps or clumps and that kind of stuff out of there. You can see how it's already starting to juice up. It's already starting to get that deep, dark, purple color and that kind of stuff. And so it's already starting to do that. What I'll do is just set those out. I do it for a 48-hour process. I rotate them every 12 hours, just flip them over. A lot of times I'll flip them over, shake them again, do that kind of stuff, and just go through a quick process like that. One of the other things I like to do a lot is, this time of year I like to do a lot of prawns, that kind of stuff. What I have here are just some frozen prawn tails. I couldn't get whole uncured prawns. For me, a lot of people like to use the cured prawns, the cooked prawns, the pre-cooked whole prawns, that kind of stuff, and they're super tough. The problem you have with a prawn that's already been boiled, already been cooked before it's been cured, is you've now boiled out a huge percentage of that scent. So a lot of those natural oils and scents get boiled out of that prawn, and it makes it super tough. It just also, to me, doesn't make it to where it fishes as well. So no matter how good the prawn is, and if it's already been boiled and it's already been cooked, it just never will fish as well. And so what I usually try to do is I'll try to buy uncooked whole prawns, that kind of thing. And so I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to take my cure, I'm just going to sprinkle a little bit of cure in the bottom. And I'm just going to layer some prawns in there, kind of just layer them down in there. These ones I didn't get them quite thawed out today. And I'll just sprinkle a little bit of cure on top. And I'm just going to just kind of layer them in here just like this the whole way. And just sprinkle cure on them. And then when I'm done, here is where it'll really help to really shake them up good, so it'll kind of really get them coated. I brought the finished product to show you what they look like when they're done, and of course left that right at home. So I am just going to kind of layer them in here, and I just kind of get some cure sprinkled all over them. And I'll put a little bit extra in here because you're really not going to burn your prawn by over curing it. And I'll just put the lid on, the same kind of thing, and just really try to shake it up good, really get that cure, really spread around on there good so they're over all the prawns. And then I'll just do the same thing with that. I'll cure that. I'll probably let those sit for about 12 hours, rotate them, and then I'll put them in the refrigerator where they don't need the full 48 hours like an egg does. And then you have a pretty quick, easy prawn. They'll really hold a lot of their natural juices and that kind of stuff. If you're going to be fishing really heavy current, if you're going to be fishing, the Willamette below Oregon City, and you know that the current's really ripping because the river's high like it is right now, and you're going to fish a prawn, if you want it a little bit tougher, you can finish it with a little bit of salt when you're done. And so just put a little bit of non-iodized salt or rock salt over the outside of the prawns when you're done. And again, I brought some finished ones to kind of show what they were like, or meant to bring some, and just forgot to bring them with me. So, but it's just a real simple, same kind of thing as I do the same thing with the prawns. If I have the whole prawn, a lot of times I'll try not to break off the head or the long tentacles off the front, or whatever they're called, the along front part of the prawn. So I'll be a lot more careful when I'm shaking them up. I won't shake them quite so vigorously and that kind of stuff, because you will tend to break those a little bit. So sometimes if I have really big, long prawns, I'll do them in a Ziploc bag or that kind of thing, because I'm really trying to keep that long, you know, prawn look together so it really looks natural and that kind of thing. And for me, that's something that's important. Go ahead.
They're frozen or not frozen?
These ones are frozen. This is what I got today. So it's really hard to find any prawn anywhere that hasn't been frozen at least once. Fresh seafood means that it's only been frozen once.
So you throw them in there frozen or?
So what I'll do is I usually will thaw them out a little bit. These ones I thawed out from the time I got home until I got here, and they just didn't thaw. Probably because they were in the bait cooler with all the eggs and the frozen stuff. But so what I try to do is I usually try to get fresh, uncooked, you know, prawns. But they're going to be somebody who's going to caught them. They're going to freeze them whole, that kind of stuff. And you can call, you know, the various seafood stores, Fitz's, that kind of stuff. You usually have to special order them through them. Call them, say, hey, I want, you know, 10 pounds, but I want the ones that aren't cooked, that kind of thing. And so, and then like say, what I do is when I rig them, I meant to bring that too, is I put a couple on a couple of double hook rig to show you how I rigged the prawn and left that at home too. So what I'll do, but a lot of times early, if you're fishing the San Diego over the next couple weeks, a prawn's a great thing to get out and fish, because there's a lot of steelhead around. The steelhead are going to pretty aggressively eat it, and there's a lot of, you know, early springers going to come grab it, that kind of thing. I like to fish a prawn and a bait of eggs. I'll take the prawn tail and put it on with bait of eggs and do a combo like that where I'm using eggs and something, eggs and sand shrimp, which in the valley it's always hard to get good quality sand shrimp, you know, all the time. So some of those days where I can't find good fresh ones, I'll just grab some cured prawns and do that kind of stuff. Do you have a question too, or did I get it?
Where's your favorite place to buy the fresh prawns?
Anywhere I can get them that are quality. And so I have guys that'll go around Portland and check all the stores up there, you know, the different seafood markets up there. I usually get my stuff down here from Fitz's. It's over off of, I don't know, 12th Street or something like that. Yeah. And so, you know, that's where I like to go, what I like to do. You know, so when I spring Chinook fish over here, on a lot of our valley tributaries, that kind of stuff, or even down to Oregon City, or when I'm at the coast, I basically mix up my fisheries into basically three things. I'm either back bouncing eggs or baits, that kind of stuff, or I'm using a direct lead dropper, back bounce and doing that kind of stuff. I use a lot of divers, and I'll kind of show you how I rig the divers, and I do a lot of bobber fishing. Throughout the year, I'll do a lot of bobber fishing for the spring Chinook, whether it's in the holes up on the upper tributaries up here where those fish kind of stack up and get out of the current.
I go to Alaska, fish for reds. Then I had the RV, and I got to keep those eggs now in the RV and the refrigerator for 2 months to get back. I always find they would mold on me. So someone says, well, you cover them with shrimp oil. When you cover them with shrimp oil, no mold. Yeah. They keep that. They keep indefinitely. Just cover them with shrimp oil.
What probably happens is the shrimp will huge 5-gallon bucket, put a new layer over the top of each day, and then they'll store them for a week. Mine can withstand weeks at room temperature, unlike a lot of the cures and that kind of stuff. So it's really, I do, it's pretty easy.
We want to thank